In June of 2016, the Roseville Rotary Club, Chiwatuli Rotary Club in Uganda, and American Refugee Committee partnered to start the world's first Rotaract Club in a refugee camp. The Nakivale Rotary Club in Nakivale Refugee Settlement, Uganda, became active in June 2017. Then District 5950 worked with the Nakivale Rotary Club on the creation of a new sewing center. Join us to learn more about the work of American Refugee Committee and how these collaborations are changing lives. We've hosted Amanda before as a Rotary World Peace Fellow. Today, Amanda is the Global Connections Office for ARC for the past 5 years. Amanda has worked in international organizations and nonprofits in the United States, Latin America, and Europe. She has a BA from the U of M in Global Studies and a master's from the University de Salvador. She began her Rotary connections as a Rotary Youth Exchange student. So please put your hands together for Amanda.
Thank you for having me again. Do I get tally marks, like honorary membership for how many presentations? I think we're up to like 3 now. So thank you for being willing to listen to me again to tell my story, because I have a very unique story that now has come really full circle with Rotary, and I'll share with you how. I am now working, as well as my guest and coworker Andrew, at American Refugee Committee. How many people have heard of American Refugee Committee before? That is fantastic, and for good reason, because we have been in Minnesota now, our headquarters in Northeast, for 40 years. It's our 40th anniversary this year. And every year we estimate that as we are out in the world, in the refugee world, we serve about 3 million people around the world annually in now upwards of 16 countries. Mainly it has been in Africa, Eastern Asia, and as well as the Middle East with our partner organizations we have there. And if you can see a little tiny dot here in Central America, we have just branched out into El Salvador. And part of that reason has led into is when I joined Rotary, and I came into American Refugee Committee, and I started looking at all that we did within the refugee world. Although Rotary doesn't have a specific focus on refugees, all the work that we were doing 100% fell into the way that Rotary chooses to work within our areas of focus. With American Refugee Committee, we are serving in the areas of disease prevention. We train midwives in some of our refugee communities to work on child and maternal health. Here, this is in South Sudan, where we had trained midwives. So it's not only helping them to reach the mothers where they are in their homes, but giving these refugee women a skill so when they leave this refugee camp, they would have something to take with them. We serve water, one of our favorite in this club, areas of focus. Serving water in places like Somalia, as well as in Uganda. Working in education, we currently have a campaign of putting 1 million children back into school in Pakistan. And as we look, though, in the news today, and as we surround ourselves, especially this past weekend with the terrible tragedy in Sri Lanka, it's easy to get bogged down and realize with the 60+ million displaced and refugee people we have around the world to be just overwhelmed. To look at it and say, how can we find good in this? How can we reach out? How can we even make a dent in anything that we are doing? Well, with my very optimistic, rosy rainbow glasses on, we at American Refugee Committee might be given those when we come in. I think I came into the door though with those on already. We truly believe that with all though the negative we are facing in the world, we truly believe and embody that the world is a beautiful and abundant place full of incredible people. And we definitely found that with our partnership with Rotary, but what we are doing with our refugee population is we see that not only in our room and our relationships we make out with our donors that help make our work possible, but that abundance and the amazingness of incredible people when you give them the opportunity to rise to the occasion also happen in our refugee camps. And one of the things we will be doing this year as American Refugee Committee is going through a little bit of a modification, and we are changing our name in June, having an official launch of a rebranding after 40 years to the name of Alight. And as Alight, we see it for a couple reasons that I'll share with you, because there's a big change will be happening, is one, our refugees themselves told us the word refugee, we don't want that to define us anymore. and we wanted to listen to them. They are our clients. We serve their needs. And they said, when you use that word, it has a label on. And we don't want to be seen like that. We are humans just like you are. Which is how we want to look at unleashing that abundance of that human being. And as we switch to Alight, we also want to look at everyone. By keeping it as American Refugee Committee with the name of refugee in there, it also limited to us to what we were able to do. We wanted to be able to help any person that was moving throughout the world, migrant, displaced, refugee, in El Salvador with people that have the possibility or feel like they might want to move and migrate north. How can we support them to even make that not happen? So when we want to build that meaningful life for all, we looked at Alight and this change and looking at our values to really embody that even more. And when we looked and when I came in and was hired in a year ago as the Global Connections Officer, I sat down with the Chief Operating Officer who said, we helped create, as Terry mentioned, the first ever Rotaract Club in a refugee camp. That was before I started there. And they said, we've seen the magic that this has really unleashed in these young people. Tell me more about Rotary, Amanda. And at that time, they were still getting to know Rotary. So after sitting down, they said, will you come on board? And I was brought on board to really work on developing that Rotary relationship. And I had not been a Rotaractor. I think I'd been in every other program in Rotary besides Rotaract, but Rotaract was not one that I was extremely familiar with. And as we realized, and even this last week at the Council of Legislation, Rotary has taken it up one notch of how they will be recognizing Rotaract within our Rotary family. I really realized that what we had done in Uganda with this club was rocking the world. It was rocking these young people's world, and I want to tell you how Rotary is amazingly doing that alongside American Refugee Committee. So take note of this person's face. You'll see him in a lot of pictures coming up. But it all started when American Refugee Committee, as we believe in the abundance and amazingness of all the people we serve, held an ideas competition. We asked the young people of Nakivale, what is one way that you would make your community better? What is something you would want to do to see that improve? We had over 1,000 responses from young people of a project they would do to impact their community. So in that competition, we selected 13 young people. We brought them into Kampala. It's a 5-hour drive from Nakivale Refugee Settlement, and celebrated them. As you can see, they were dressed to the nines, as they were proud to receive this award as being a change maker in their community, and they received a small stipend to make that project possible. Well, at that celebration, Rotary had been invited through serendipitous connections that were made along the way. 50 Rotarians showed up at the celebration as well, including our late President-elect Sam Awori. And they said, these ideas of changing our world and making an impact these young people really embody what Rotary, and especially Rotaract, is. And that is where the idea came of, well, couldn't Rotaract be where they are as well? How do we meet them where they are? And where they are is Nakivale Refugee Settlement. All those young people that came into Kampala are from a community refugee settlement in the southern part of Uganda that has been around for over 50 years. Over 100,000 people, and the average stay in that settlement is 17 years. So this isn't a place where people are coming and going, which is very fitting. And many of the young people that are in our club that we started, which was chartered 2 years ago this June, are coming from situations that are all different. Paul, who's in the middle, you can see holding the blue flag, has his parents still in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but was forced due to violence coming in and the threat that they saw he was to that area, and his life was in danger. I'm trying to find my other friend in the picture. There's some that have fled because both of their parents were killed back in their home, and they had no other place to be, and they knew their life would also be in danger. And when they came together, Rotary saw in them the opportunity and that spark to serve, but what became for them is a family. They needed Rotary. Rotary not offered them the opportunity to serve, but offered them the ability to be a part of an immediate family within Nakivale Refugee Settlement, but also our bigger Rotary family. And they haven't disappointed. Their very first project that they did was really recognizing is that they live day in and day out in the settlement. They know the needs that are there. The first point of entry into a settlement is the reception center. When you go into the reception center, you identify yourself as where you're coming from, possibly the reason why you have fled, although the countries they're coming from, they don't demand that. And you're given your refugee card that will state where you'll live. It'll give you your card to get your weekly food rations from the World Food Program. And that is where you start. But it can be a place of sadness. And with all the people that are coming in day after day, it's a place that's very hard to keep up. And they knew that. So their very first project, which they sought the support of American Refugee Committee to do, was a fumigation of the settlement, as well as getting clothing bundles from the community in order to give to the newly arrived people coming with next to nothing. So after their first year, on World Refugee Day last year, June 20th, we had a big celebration to celebrate their first year of being a charter club and to kick off their new year. And as you know, Barry's theme this year was Be the Inspiration. And so they decided that for their year, they were going to up it and say, we are going to have the year of action and inspiration, and dedicated and promised that they would do 52 projects this year. How many of you would like to do 52 projects as a club this year? Terry? 2? No. But what they also realized what they could do is doing the doable, which is something that we have been teaching them, of finding things that are actually possible to do and not be bogged down by the overwhelming need in the community. So they, through the support of ideas that came in from across the community, they selected 52 small doable projects that had a budget of no more than $500. That was something they could create, and it was something they could manage. So the second project they did, although I say they're small, doable projects, this one they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. I think, Andrew, you were there for this project. Many of these projects, so Andrew actually works in Nakivale and is the official advisor for the Rotaract Club and was present for many of the projects then. For the roofing project, they had recognized mothers that needed help in their homes. They were single mothers, widowed, that needed support of their roofing. So they went in, but when they took off the roof, and they were up on the roof all day pulling things off, pulling on, some of the structures of the homes need a little bit more work. So they did come back and say, well, we need a little bit more money to finish this up in a few more days. They tried to get their projects done in a day, like this project where they gathered the young people in the community to do a youth talent show. Now, this is something that doesn't need $500 to do, but it's something that had a huge impact and fun and bringing joy and spark joy within their community. And boy, do they have talent in that community. I mean, it is beyond. I wish I could bring them all into our Rotary Clubs and our conferences and conventions to really just put on the show that they do. And one of the things that is a struggle when you think of somebody living in a community for 17 years in the refugee settlements, they depend almost entirely on the food rations that are given to them by the World Food Program. But the World Food Program, what they get as a ration is typically maize, which is a corn substance, and beans. Living on that for 17 years would not be something I think any of us would want to do, nor do they. But it's very hard to provide for yourself if you don't have a job, or even being able to switch things if you might barter for something. So one of the things that has been a constant in the community, and it has to be a constant due to drought seasons and plants often dying, is tree planting. They did this for a handful of the projects they did during the 52, and this one in particular in Rwanda was focusing on mango trees, right? Yeah. So looking at the long-term future planning of the community, knowing that they will probably be there for a while. This picture I had to put in because I love this one personally, because anytime there's little people involved is my favorite. They had gone into a local school and recognized that the children were sitting on these bricks and on the floor for their daily classes. And they had a simple fix. We can get chairs. That is something easy to do. And hoping that that does turn around, and they were able to spend the day with the children and sang songs and played with them. And the most recent project, we're up this week to 46, Andrew, 47, I think, this week, is looking at livelihoods. So like we said, they're there for a long time. If they need to provide for themselves, finding them opportunities. Sometimes it is just that little bit of bump that they need to get them started, for them to flourish on their own and really have their abundance unleashed. And this was identifying a few of the women in the community that had interest in sewing and offering them the materials in which to make that happen. But this doesn't all just happen just with American Refugee Committee. Every partner here is necessary to make it happen. American Refugee Committee knows the refugees, and that's the experience we bring to the table. We alone cannot create a Rotaract Club. That's not our expertise. That's Rotary's expertise, and Rotary does that very, very well. So Rotary comes to the table to really open up the door, offering the opportunity to create the clubs, which is the first time Rotary has ever established themselves within a refugee camp or settlement, but also opens up the world to them in a different way, whether it be being a part of that family in the community, going to other clubs within Uganda if they're able to move around, but also recognizing and knowing that they're a part of something that's over 1.2 million members is mind-boggling for them. But before they even became Rotaractors, they had the heart of service that would blow your service above self idea out of the water. And with American Refugee Committee partnering with UNHCR, which is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, is a necessary part of being able to legally and officially work within a settlement. Unlike our projects where we go into Guatemala, we might get local government official peeps permission, or just working with the Rotary Clubs, we know that there's a need and we're able to make that happen. Outside organizations are not able to come within a within a refugee settlement and camp to do the project without UN permission, which is why ARC is involved as well. And as we have unleashed that abundance within Nakivale for those young people, it's an idea that is too amazing to keep just within that Nakivale settlement. We have about 20 members that are in the Nakivale Club right now. But Nakivale is so big with 100,000 people, it takes about an hour to drive across. The club has realized that there's other members in the other 2 neighborhoods that are also very interested in Rotaract, because all their projects across the year have been in all these other neighborhoods and like, what is this you guys are involved in? And so they're currently working on starting 2 new Rotaract clubs within Nakivale Refugee Settlement. So there'll be 3 within one settlement. Truly amazing, we'll have all the bases covered. And we're looking at expansion into Oruchinga, which is near Nakivale, and then also up into Chaka and Changwali later on. Andrew's my superstar in getting those things moving. And why we're able to make this happen is that Rotary in Uganda has recognized that amazingness and is working on creating an agreement with us. But it's gone all the way to Rotary International. We met with Rotary International about a month ago, and Rotary International executives have, including John Huco, have said, we want to see this happen more, and have given their thumbs up and support to create an agreement that will push this forward over the next year. So we have the goal of creating 3 more clubs in this next Rotary year within Uganda, and also crossing over our border into Rwanda, where Rotary takes a little bit different look. In Uganda, can you guess how many Rotary clubs would you guess are in Uganda? 5. We have to take 5 times 20. There's over 100 Rotary clubs in Uganda. Even though that was my 5-minute mark, I'm still taking 5 as Terry's thing, as I realize. There's over 100 clubs in Uganda, but in Rwanda, there's only 5 Rotary clubs. So it'll be a little bit different challenge for us, but I see it as a way that we can also work to bolster Rotary within the country. So our goal is to start in Nyabaheke and work in Gihembe and hopefully Mahama as well. So 2 to 3 more in Rwanda over the next year. And that's where our family of Rotary comes into play. We have had amazing support from, as was mentioned, from 5960. The Roseville Club was the official international sponsor of the first club, which was in Nakivale. And some members from 5960 and 5950 have been coordinating a trip to go down. So we have 2 trips that will be amazing Rotary-focused trips to really work on bolstering up the young people, teaching them about Rotary, teaching them how to be a proper, even functioning of a Rotaract Club. And we are also looking for more Rotary clubs that are wanting to be that official international sponsor. So signing on like you would here if you were the sister club for another Rotaract Club, or the mother club as they call them, you would also then could be an official sponsor of another refugee Rotaract Club. Because as we go forward, these young people unfortunately don't have the funds to even fundraise within their community or put their money out of their pocket to make their clubs function, let alone for their projects. So it's really become a universal effort to make these things happen. And what I hope is that in a year's time, which you might not want me to come back for a 4th time, but if I came back for an update, be able to have 5 more pictures or 6 more pictures like this of the young people in other refugee camps that have really come together and found their family within Rotary. So as a Rotarian myself, but with you as Rotarians, I thank you for really being a part of an organization that values coming together, values family, and is willing to recognize these young people as part of our family as well, and lift them up and empower them to be the true amazing individuals that they have been placed here to do. So thank you for being a part of this. If you're interested in learning more of how your club or you yourself might want to be involved, Andrew and I will be here after to answer any of that questions. And then, thank you. Do we have a few minutes for questions? Okay. Yes.
Angela's in your group.
Yes, she is.
Because I heard her speak recently and she talked about a lot of refugees. I didn't understand this, but a lot of refugees like live their lives in camps.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily a short-term thing, like maybe if you were like me, you thought maybe this was a short-term thing, but people can be in there for their lives.
Right.
It's very long. That's what we say. The average stay is between 15 and 17 years. And as that is growing, and these young people, if I look at some of the members of the club, if they don't have something necessarily to go back to, or if conflict stays, if we live anywhere for 5 years, we kind of make ourselves, that becomes a place for us. They make their life, their family there. If it comes a point where they might be able to go back, they might choose even to stay because it's a better place. They have made their family there. Did you have something you wanted to say to that, Andrew?
Yes, yeah. I think just to add on that, in Uganda, specifically we have refugee settlements, meaning that once you are settled in Uganda, that's your permanent stay, unless there's something when maybe you are settled in another country, but it's your place to live, and you have free movement of moving around looking for livelihood.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just a comment. When you rebrand yourself, I hope you make a soft transition, because I've lost track of charities that have rebranded themselves, and a light doesn't immediately say American Refugee Committee.
No, it doesn't.
Thank you. That's a very good such. We will have a year where it'll still be that overlap of things, so you won't lose track of us, or we won't let you. It's also a good way.
Yes.
Is a lot of the work on kind of crisis here, like in Sierra Leone and Liberian refugees who come in that direction, or with Chad, and it's like people come, and of course South Sudan. I mean, does it kind of, whenever there's a crisis, is that where there's an influx, or is it just a constant stream from all directions into these camps in Uganda?
It's a good question. So within Eastern Africa, ARC does work in Sudan, South Sudan, Congo, Uganda, and Rwanda. And from there, we will see certain crises that will increase those problems. There has been an influx recently from South Sudan. Congo has had some representatives also coming in. So there's camps that will receive much more we'll have to move our attention to. Nakivale, for example, is receiving like a slow trickle in. So there's a constant movement that some are because of immediate movement in, some because they have been suffering and dealing with it for years, and finally there was something that broke the camel's back that they're like, we're out and moving. So there's different points that people do choose to move. That's a good question.
We have time for one more question.
Yes, Don.
Would you leave some information so that we can look at seeing how we might be able to be a sponsor club or help on these separate 52 projects?
Yes, I would be happy to. Yeah, I'll be going down there in June on this trip. I pointed to something that's not there. The trip that's in June, if anyone would like to come with me, but one of the things that we'll be doing is working with the club to plan out for their next year, if they'll be doing 52, if what they'll be looking like. And so yes, I'd be happy to share that. Yes, Angela?
Last question I know would be on. When was it? In the fall, I had a chance to go to the gala, which was a phenomenal event. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
About the gala?
Yes.
How about you tell them?
Well, I don't know what the objective was, how much money you raised, etc. I can say we had a smashing time. We had a significant Rotary contingent there.
We did.
And it probably about, I thought 1,500 people.
We had 15 to
tells me 1,600 at the Armory. Mind-blowing and very powerful. Individuals who've benefited from ARC gave their testimony, gave their, they chronicled their life through ARC, and it was just very, very touching.
Thank you for that. We did have a very good time. We had about 100 Rotarians with their spouses there. 1,600 people filled up the Armory and really had the celebration because it was our announcement of our rebranding into a light. And what we do is we take that opportunity to really highlight all of the impact that has happened and offer people the opportunities to step up to make a change in the people's lives there, and often unleash the abundance of refugees that have come up with projects themselves that they've asked for our support on. So yes, Angela was there. I don't think anyone else here was, but the next party will be equally smashing next spring. So.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you.